Hey, true believers, Chris Mack coming at you with a absolutely epic figure review today. We are going over the Blackest Night Series 7 Red Lantern Mera. Now, the reason this is epic to me is I sold my original one. And I kicked myself over and over again because I lost my Dex-Starr, which is one of the highlights of this figure. That and just Mera looks absolutely awesome. So I'm glad that I found another one. I'm just like, yes! Speaking of which, if you guys want to pick this figure up, I looked on Big Bad Toy Store and Megapolis. It is not available. So I found this one on eBay for an okay price point. So you may want to check eBay, Amazon, and of course, first and foremost, please check with your local comic shop and see if anyone's traded one in, or, fingers crossed if they can order one for you. So as you see here, you get that cool Blackest Nights thing, which if you guys have not read this series, either get the singles or the collected trade. Great run by Geoff Johns. You get the cool stuff. You see all the accessories, which we'll get into. You see it says DC Direct. Really, no, these are kind of more the traditional bubble packs, so there's nothing here except for the plastic. Flip around here to the back, which I got a giant glare. Sorry, guys. You'll kind of see the Series 7 figures that you want. I'll make sure to get a close-up of that so you can pause it, look at it at your convenience. Flip it back around this way, just the bubble packaging again. Same here, you can kind of see Mera's tiara. Mera's tiara, say that 3 times fast. On the bottom, you see she has a peg hole and all the stuff like the stand that comes here in the back. And there's no legal stuff, so we don't have to care about that. But, as I say, what we care about is Mera an awesome figure or not. So let's go ahead and crack this open and get a closer look at Mera and her accessories. And here's Mera and Dex-Starr out of the packaging and just looks absolutely beautiful. I'm so glad I was able to get this figure back in my collection because after I sold it, I was just kind of like, man, do I just kick myself for doing that. So to sit here and actually see both of them on the stand and just looking great, it reminds me of why I picked up the Blackest Night figures, which if you guys haven't, this is definitely a series that you want. Yes, there are some pros and cons with these DC Directs, which we'll get into a moment, but I just wanted to show off how gorgeous these two figures are, just beautifully sculpted. So let's go ahead and get them off the stand and get a closer look at these two incredible Red Lantern figures. Here are the accessories that Mera comes with, and yes, I'm counting Dex-Starr as an accessory because he's not like his full-fledged figure. So let's go ahead and start with him, by the way. And I have to say, out of all the Red Lanterns, yeah, I have my favorites, and of course I love Atrocitus. But I don't know, there's just something about Dex-Starr, and if you've read his backstory, it is really, really tragic. He's just a normal, was a normal cat, but yeah, go read his backstory. It is heartbreaking. And if you want to see his first appearance, it was in the Final Crisis Rage of the Red Lanterns #1 that came out back in 2008, and I actually remember buying that. That was, I think, the first comic book that got me back into Green Lantern during the Geoff Johns era, and then I went, backtracked to Rebirth and all that stuff. But yeah, that's his first appearance. And as for this figure, I think he is wonderfully sculpted, but I just kind of wish that we could have got some more articulation on him because his head does not spin, arms don't do nothing, legs don't do nothing. The only thing, oddly enough, that's posable on him is his tail, and he's just kind of like, okay. But the one thing, and then again, just look at that. I mean, look at the paint apps. Gorgeous, gorgeous work, and little fluffy moving tail. I like those crazy yellow eyes and the kind of the yellowish teeth, and just the red suit overall looks good with the blue fur. Really beautiful work. And then I like, because he doesn't really have fingers like humans do, you know what I mean? So he always wears his Red Lantern thing on his tail. And I like that even though this is a super, super small figure, I like that they at least tried to put the Red Lantern logo on the ring like it's supposed to, which is that symbol right there. And just, I like that they really made him look nice. I love those cat eyes like that, the ears. And just overall, I'm really pleased. I just wish, though, that they would have given him at least some sort of, what do you call it, ab crunch or something, so when you're trying to pose him, you can get at least, instead of just this look all the time, which gets really, really tiresome. But nonetheless, really love Dex-Starr. And then, of course, what lantern is never complete without their lantern? Excuse me. And then what I liked about each of the figures that I have from this line is if you need to, you can take this part off, so you can either pose it by itself, or or you can put it in the crook of their arm and all that good stuff. The one thing about the Red Lanterns that kind of makes me sad compared to some of the other ones is on the other ones, they have the bottom thing here, but the other ones have the top. And there's a way for the light to hit where this illuminates more, as where with these for the Red Lantern ones, they don't really do it. But I love that blood red, and just the design of it. It's completely different from the other lanterns. And then I like that when you add the handle back, which you just pop those into place like that, it almost looks like the logo. So I think that is really, really cool. And then it reflects, as you can see, really nice in the light, so that's going to look good whenever you're doing any type of photography. So yeah, like those lanterns. Next up is, of course, Mera's trident. And I kind of wish, like with the lantern, you see how they kind of put that translucent plastic in there like that? I kind of wish that they would have done that for her jewel and her trident right there, because that would have been cool, because you'd see that illuminate and whatnot. But nonetheless, that red's really, really cool. I like that, what do you call it? That glossy gold on there really interacts with the light very nicely. And just, like the way the grip kind of has like that nice, I don't even want to call it pearl, but like metallic look. And then just all that trippiness down the middle, it's a nice sound. But yeah, I think that trident looks really nice. I like the way that this has like kind of more of a pitchfork, which is like a complete opposite of Arthur's. So I think that looks beautiful overall. Great trident there. See if I can get this back in here without knocking things down. Aha, success. And then each lantern from this line, the Blackest Night's DC Direct, all come with stands, which I think is great, because sometimes, you try to pose a figure a certain way and they just plop, plop, plop. And you're just kind of like, come on. So, there's the peg hole, and they always have the logo, which I think the Red Lantern logo for me is my favorite design from each of them. And you get that nice transparent, as you can kind of see through. You get that nice red vision going on. But yeah, I like the stand, like the accessories. So I think for a DC Direct line, I think she gets nice, ample accessories, plus Dex-Starr really makes it worth it, which is kind of like why this figure right now online is pricey, is because of this little guy right here. So, growing up, Aquaman was really never one of my favorite characters. It wasn't until I got older that I really began to appreciate him, and especially what Geoff Johns did with the New 52 Aquaman, which, if you haven't read that initial run, really, really good work there. Now, the reason I say that is Mera is Arthur Curry's wife. She first appeared in Aquaman number 11 back in 1963. And from what I can never remember the name of her tribe that she was originally from, but she was sent in to assassinate Arthur. And nonetheless, they fell in love and got married, so she is the Queen of Atlantis. Now, if you want to see her as the Red Lantern, that happened during Blackest Night number 7 back in 2010, and that's because rings needed to be dispersed to different people to help battle the Black Lanterns. Black Lanterns are former superheroes and associates of superheroes who are brought back from the dead. So if you haven't read Blackest Nights, that was another great story by Geoff Johns. He was kicking butt during all that. He was also the one that wrote the Final Crisis Rage of the Red Lanterns, where we got Atrocitus and Dex-Starr and all that good stuff. So with all that backstory said, let's go ahead and take a look at these paint apps on this Mera figure. And she is gorgeous, folks. I remember the first one that I bought, which I wish I had not sold that one, but I wasn't really impressed with her at the time. But, on retrospect, I loved what they did. She looks almost like something out of a horror comic. The way they gave her face has like that lack of what do you call it, pupil in there, and you just get that straight whiteness. Like that fiery red lipstick really helps with her red hair and just the outfit in general. I love these bones, like this crustaceous bones going on. It kind of reminds me of what was her name from X-Men? Mera. She reminds me of Mera, but because she's supposed to be this full of rage, and because she was a former assassin, that's why the Red Lanterns chose her. Said that you possess great rage, and I think that's one reason why they kind of gave her that red hair, that fiery red hair like Jean Grey. Just really good stuff there, and I like the streaks and the way it just kind of flips here. See how there's like this little bloop. I like the way that that's kind of layered like that. Really nice work on the hair, and then I'm really happy. I know I keep saying really, but I just woohoo! Love how they did these bones. I know it's not real, but man, that looks good. They added some of the brown and the yellows in there. Just really looks like it could be something right off the beach. Love the logo right here on our midsection. Did a really good job on that one. And I like the outfit overall. I am just over the hills for this because, I believe this is supposed to be kind of like armor-esque in the comics, but I like how it shimmers in the light. That is some really, again, really, really, really some good paint work right there. So I'm sure it's some sort of gloss, but I can't get over how great that reflectant works. And of course you get some more bones along the hands, which I like how it jettisons out onto her hands like that. And then of course the skin tone looks good. Nothing that could really take away from it. The nose, the cheeks don't look, just a very nice looking doll face there for a female character. Great work there. And of course the bone protrudes there. I like the how when she gets the ring, everything turns red, even her nail polish. And then of course each figure has to rock the ring, which sadly, because it's such small detail, it's hard to put the logo on there, but that would have been cool if they could have pulled that off. That would have really added to it. There we go again with the really. And of course each Atlantean has kind of those fins on the back of their outfit. Feet look nice. So the paint apps, and then of course on her crown, I realized I was like, hey, I didn't go over the crown. We should probably dive into that, yeah? Has a nice metallic look to it. Really reflects, again, these bones kind of adding to the theme of it. And then the little rivets on the side. Just looks great. Well, it's more of a tiara than I guess it'd be a crown tiara, whatever you want to call it. And just the way it sits on her face looks good. The paint apps overall on Mera and Dex-Starr are absolutely beautiful. That's one thing I like about this DC Direct figure overall, and what that kind of draws my eye to it is the sculpt and the paint apps. Now that we're done gushing about the paint apps, let's look at the one thing about this figure that really irks my gurk here. So there's, just like Dex-Starr, not a whole lot of articulation on Mera. So usually we'd start with some sort of head articulation. There's no back and forth. There is no side to side. As you can see here, there is no ab crunch for the front or back. The arms can only go out that much, and you can't really get a 360 spin because of the bones and the hair. Tragically, single jointed elbows. But again, this is an older figure. No wrist articulation whatsoever. And you can only bring the leg out about that far and about that far back. Single jointed knees, no ankle pivot or upper thigh cut whatsoever. So that's the articulation on Mera. So you're just thinking, man, come on. Now, the other thing that drives me nuts is, so, we get these wonderful accessories, the trident, the lantern, the stand. But check this out. You try to see how her hands are just kind of wide open like so. So you try to put trident in this hand, and as you can see, it barely stays in there. And if you want to try to get further, forget about it. That's not going to happen. So try the other hand. Like, okay, well, maybe this hand. And again, if you get it up here, see how it kind of still, you can't really get it down unless you really futz with it, and it kind of hangs at an angle, which is kind of, come on. And then again, the same thing on this hand, like with the other one, where if you try to put it into the more skinny area, nope, that's not going to happen. So holding the trident, it's kind of, come on. And then the same thing with the lantern, because other characters like Atrocitus, Larefleeze, Hal Jordan from this line, they can hold their lanterns, but look at this. You can't bend their hands open at all, so it drops there. So you try with this hand, put it in there, forget about it. So yeah, the articulation and the hands on her are horrendous. They really should have thought, okay, well, we're giving her 2 accessories that, customers are going to want to put in her hands, but instead, let's go ahead and just leave her hands just wide open where they're just going to fall out. So those are the 2 major strikes for me on this character, is the articulation and the inability for her to hold her accessories. For comparison, here is the other figure from not the same wave as her, but it's still part of the DC Blackest Night series. This is the Atrocitus figure, and as you can see, even though his hands are kind of open, you can still rest the lantern in his hand. And then this is the DC Multiverse Movie Trench Wear Collect and Connect Wave Aquaman. So this is modeled after Jason Momoa, obviously, but I like this figure a lot better than the blonde-headed Arthur. I think I always figured that the Atlanteans should look more kind of Khal Drogo-esque if you want to get Game of Thrones style. But yeah, he's a little bit smaller, but I think that's just because at this time Mattel was doing kind of more of a 6-inch, whereas you can see the Blackest Night, the DC Directs are just a little bit taller. So I'm thinking he's probably somewhere around 6 inches, and these are probably 6.5 and so forth. And then, of course, Atrocitus towers all of them because in the comics he is a beast. But it's just kind of funny to see Mera sort of towering over Arthur there. But again, I think even though there's just the slight little bit, I think it's because of the tiara more than the head size. Not enough coffee this morning. But I think if you put them together like this, they look absolutely great. So as I've said in other DC reviews, I appreciate that DC, for the most part, no matter what wave, there's at least in my experience from the figures that I've gotten, I've not really had a problem with scaling, whether it's the Mattel, the Direct, or the McFarlane Toys ones. Even though those are 7-inch ones, you have to be a little creative with those. But again, if you guys want some really great figures, I definitely suggest all 3 of these. And if you'd like to see reviews on Atrocitus and Aquaman, let me know down in the comments or on our social media pages again. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of show off how these look, and just love that reflectant red. But there, she just looks so great like that. I mean, I love her green jumpsuit, don't get me wrong, but that red just really suits her, because Mera, even though in regular continuity, she can be sweet and be more like Arthur, you rub her the wrong way, this is the type of Mera you're going to get. So yeah, great figures. Love looking at them side by side like this, and I can sit here and continue to gush and gush, but how about instead, let's just go ahead and move on. So overall, I think both Dex-Starr and Mera are absolutely amazing. I think they're well sculpted. I love the designs on Mera's outfit. The scaling looks absolutely beautiful, and I just really appreciate that they gave us Dex-Starr, because he was one of my favorites from the comic books. Though, as I said, I think the biggest strikes for me is the lack of articulation. That absolutely kills me, and the fact that they just did not fit Mera's hands for her accessories. So what I had to do here is I finally had to use a little bit of not silly putty, but this like tacky tape, and kind of wrapped it in there to finally get her to hold her lantern. You would think that when you get a character that they would at least work the hands enough to fit the accessories. So, you know, maybe they didn't have that in mind. They figure a lot of people are just going to pose her in the box, which, you know, I could understand, but I'm the type that loves to take these out and just get a closer look at them because I just want to have fun with them, you know what I mean? But anyway, I have to say, these two figures I'm definitely going to give 9 out of 10 power rings to, because the Blackest Night series was great. So as I said, if you guys haven't read it, definitely check it out. And if you guys have enjoyed this figure, please make sure to first support your local comic shop and see if they can order it for you. And then if not, you know, you can go the online route. And if you guys have enjoyed this review, we definitely appreciate it if you take a minute to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you can possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little Blackest Night bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys can come to the channel, and we'd love to have a dialogue and hear your feedback down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links in the description below. So with all that said, I hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.